speaking with Matt Phelan. He is the head of global happiness at the Happiness Index, and he's going to be speaking at the Connected Cities Conference on July 6th, part of the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival 2020. So tell me, Matt, what are you going to talk about at the festival, and why does that matter so much?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good question to kick off with. I'm really mainly going to be talking about human beings, and what makes us happy. And also how important it is not to think that there's these people who come to work and there's these people who live at home, and that they are two different people and they have completely different personalities, etc., etc. So I'll be talking about how an individual and a team's happiness impacts their performance, and how that impacts the whole of society as well. And I signed up to do this before we had COVID-19. And I think it's even more important now to be talking about how to connect cities, following the experiences we've been through. And I'm going to share a lot of data on how the experiences people have been through over the last 3 or 4 months, how it's actually impacted people, so we can learn from that.
So let's get a bit more about who you are and what you do. So tell us, what is the Happiness Index?
The Happiness Index is really, in a family or a city or a company, you often get people that are emotionally intelligent, people that can walk into a room and they can say, these people are feeling well, or they're not feeling well. Once you're in an organization or in a city that's more than, say, 100 people, so there's a number called the Dunbar, which is like around 100 to 120, which is at which point it's difficult to retain like those connections between people. So beyond that number, you need to do more than what you would have done in the history of time. So the Happiness Index collects data on how people are feeling, and it even collects data on those things that people often don't believe belong at business, like these things called emotions, which lots of businesses try to say, no, emotions should not belong at work. And we say the opposite. Emotions totally belong at work. And from a neuroscience perspective, if anyone ever tells you you're too emotional, they are scientifically incorrect. And send them to my podcast and they can find out why.
Now, I have to say, I don't feel like data and AI sort of make me think of emotions, but obviously you're using that to determine how happy people are. So how does that work? Yeah,
well, imagine some of our clients. Some of our clients have got 400,000 employees, right? And imagine you're on the board of that company. If you're in a company of 100 people, or in a village of 100 people, you see everyone on a daily basis, so you get a bit of a feel about how everyone is. But once you start doing these things on a larger scale, you still need that information as a board. It's still really useful to you. So the simple answer is we ask people. We ask people how they feel, but we do it in many different ways. Like the traditional ways via email, but we've got clients that use things like Amazon Alexa or Google Home to actually verbally ask people how they are. So the AI is used to crunch lots and lots of data and pull out trends. So you could ask 1 million people how they feel, but that would take a lot of time to crunch that data, wouldn't it, in a traditional way? Whereas the Happiness Index does that in seconds. So the CEO has a report that he or she can check at any point in the day to understand how their people are feeling.
And how can that understanding of how people are feeling help a company with their business strategy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the underlying data that we're talking about here is a lot of people train their children or coach their children or educate their children that if you do well at school, work hard, get a good job, you'll be happy. What the data shows is it's the other way around. If you help your children or your team be happy, they will perform better.
Do you think the lockdown has had a big impact on how people are feeling?
Yeah, I know it has, because I see the data on a daily basis. So on a scale of 1 to 10, people's happiness average across the globe, and we work in about 86 different countries, is about 7.2. 1 being really bad, 10 being good. That dropped immediately in most countries when they went into lockdown to around 5.6. So that's a 2-point difference on a 10-point scale is huge. In most countries, we have seen that increase now, and that would have an impact on performance. If you spoke to your friends, they would have said they felt more lethargic, or they didn't have as much energy, and all that sort of stuff is linked to happiness. But by understanding why people are unhappy, so if you take me as an example, I'm a parent of young children of school age, so I had to work and homeschool at the same time. So that was a real challenge for me. So if you've got a workforce that's got lots of young parents, understanding that means you can help them you can help them be more understanding, empathetic, and help them perform. On a normal day, happiness declines throughout the day. So it tends to be people are more optimistic in the morning than they are in the evening. So not only does it change throughout the year, it changes throughout the day. And COVID's been interesting because a leader of a country can go and make an announcement that can change your whole team's happiness within an instant. But for you to understand that and why that's made them feel like that is really important. The science behind all of this is the first stage of all this of a leader is to show that you care. And the easiest way to show that you care is to listen. So just by collecting this data, you're listening to your team. You're saying, look, I want to understand, because you might not be able to fix everything. People might be feeling unhappy because they can't go outside.
So you said, obviously, understanding happiness is very important. So what does increased happiness of staff result in for businesses?
Ultimately, it comes back to performance. Teams that are happier perform better at work. And all the other things that link into it, like staff retention, how long you stay around, how much you're going to go above and beyond for your team members, and all that kind of stuff. So it flows into every part. But I would encourage everyone to try and get happiness of their customers and employees into a board report, because once you start doing that, you start to get some really, really interesting insights.
And you mentioned one very important word there, the customers, because I've been talking an awful lot about staff. So what impact do happier staff have on customers?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that I personally set up the happiness index to find out, which is I wanted to understand the correlation, because I was running a service business, of how happy my employees were with my customers. And we proved there was a direct correlation. If our team were happier, our customers were happier. I don't want to get too serious because you got me on to talk about happiness, but it goes as far, you follow it through from employee to customer, but it actually goes through to life expectancy and stuff like that. So happier people do live longer, and there's so much more on that side of it. And when people first start looking into it, you think, oh, it's this happiness stuff, it's really nice. But the more you look at it, the more you realize, really, it's a really serious business metric, and two, it's a really important life metric.